Hey, what's up, ladies? We're back tonight with Jesse and Jari again. You saw them a couple weeks ago. Jesse was here talking about Fathered by God, but tonight they're here to talk about married life and relationships. Jesse and Jari have been helping married couples for years with premarital counseling, regular counseling, and just mentoring and coaching couples and just being extremely helpful in the church. And so now they are the married life leaders at Life Church Allentown. And so we kind of want to introduce you to them. We want you to get to know them, hear their heart for marriage, hear their passion. They have a deep love and appreciation for married life. So let's like clap our hands for that, because there's so much negativity in the world regarding this topic. And here tonight, you get to hear from two people who love God, love people, and love being married. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So tonight they're going to give us a sneak peek into their relationship. So welcome, Jesse and Jari.
Thank
you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit of your married life backstory. Take a moment to share a little bit about that. And did you see lifelong commitment modeled in your family?
Okay, so how this usually works is I'll lead off with the story, and then Jari will fill in the blanks because I usually give like the basics. So Jari will give you a little bit more detail. So I'll start off. We met January 1st, 1995 at a New Year's Eve party at Holy Infancy Church in Bethlehem, at the school, actually, not the church itself, but the school. We were dancing, talking a little bit, and the night ended, and that was the extent of it. I left. I came back a little bit later, and I saw Jari outside kissing someone else. So I figured, wasn't sure what was going to happen with the relationship after that. But anyways, I waited till about 3 o'clock in the morning after I was done partying, and I gave Jari a call on a payphone, which no longer exists, and asked her if she wanted to come meet me, and she said no. So about maybe like 3 weeks later, I built up the nerve after the initial rejection to give her a call back, and we scheduled our first romantic date at my apartment with a house full of guys and girls for a Super Bowl party. So that was our first date.
Mind you, I hate football, but
yeah. Babe, you want to add anything to that?
No.
He threw you under the bus.
He straight up did.
Wow. That's amazing. So that first kiss was not your kiss, Jesse. That's all good, though. That's all forgiven. So, all right, well, let's start with question number 2. Why were you attracted to one another in the first place? What do you like and admire most about each other?
For me, initially, it was, I think it was Jesse's looks, initially. I think I was, obviously, I was 19. By the way, that story that he just said, I was 19 when I was acting like an idiot. So then, as I got to know him, I was able to see a little bit more of his kind of heart and commitment and perseverance. So I think I was attracted to, if I could, the word that I would say was the potential that I thought he could be. It was just something about him because he was crazy, it was just a lot of partying, drinking, hanging out. There was not a whole lot of anything else going on. So to be honest, I think I always just really was attracted to that.
Awesome. And we lost Jesse. He'll get back on the Zoom. So we'll just wait for him to get back on. But I think talking about attraction is important because I feel like sometimes, I don't know. Obviously, I've been married for 30 years. So I have been married to the same person for 30 years and we'd love to keep it that way. But I think in today's world, I think looks and that plays such a big part. But in relationships, long term now, being married for 30 years, looks is part of it, but my goodness, what's inside the heart is so much more important and so much more deeper to discover that in a person. But so let's talk,
Absolutely.
yeah, right.
Hmm.
So let's talk about this. When you run into obstacles, roadblocks, conflicts in your marriage, what's your default reaction? Like, do you get angry? Do you run? Do you blame one another? Or do you look for ways to solve the problem and move forward? And we'll let Jesse, once he's back, we'll let him answer the attraction question. Oh, he's back. So, hey,
Here I
you're
am.
back, Jesse.
I'm curious I came back on. I heard you say I was going to answer the attraction question. Did
Yes,
Jody share yet?
she did share.
So what was the attraction?
Babe, I said your looks, and actually, and then shortly thereafter, I saw that there was lots of potential. You know, if I looked past the drunkenness and the acting a fool and stuff like that, I saw that there was great potential. So that's what I was attracted to.
Wow, that's pretty spiritual because mine was just going to be physical attraction.
Which is all good.
Which is
Yeah,
typical. It's a typical male response. You got anything? You have anything else to add besides that, Jesse? And
He's free.
he's frozen. Oh. All right. Well, we're having trouble with Jesse's Zoom, so we're going to be patient with him tonight. But so back to the question about obstacles, roadblocks, conflicts in your marriage. What's your default reaction? You know, do you get angry? Do you run? Do you blame one another, or do you look for ways to solve the problem and move forward?
I think for me, my default, I mean, I would say anger. I usually get angry first. And then, I mean, back in the day when I was younger, I would say it was still anger. But it was anger that would last for days and days and days. And I would just hold grudges and just be straight up, just ratchet and ugly. But I think the older that I get and the more mature I become in Christ, I think, yeah, it still may still be initially anger, but it's not the same type of anger. And I find myself like it's short-lived. I find myself wanting to solve it quicker than not, because I just don't want to waste time with Jesse. More and more, it's become evident, that time is just so fleeting. And so I don't know. I just don't want to waste the same kind of time that I thought I had when I was younger on problems and staying mad and, having it my way.
It's good. And how about for you, Jesse? How would you answer that question with the roadblocks, the obstacles? What's your default reaction?
Run, avoid. I hate conflict. To this day, I still hate it, but over the years, I've learned to have to deal with it because eventually it comes back around. So I'm going to be running forever. So it's just better for me to handle it right up front.
Mm-hmm. How do you think you've gotten better? Like what has helped you to not run? And or I know you still have a tendency to do that, but what do you think has helped you, overcome that challenge?
Well, I mean, Jadi's modeled it well, even though she has her own struggles with it and her, whatever she, her fears and all that. But for me, part of it is insecurity, just personal insecurities about the way I communicate and my ability to communicate. So a lot of times that is the driving factor behind me avoiding conflict because I feel I don't communicate well enough to do it maturely. So I either blow up and just annihilate somebody, or the other option is to avoid it altogether. So over the years, I've learning how to move through conflict has helped me not run so much.
Mm-hmm. And I think too, like so much of how we handle our problems is kind of like how we were brought up, like what the examples that we saw. And I know we didn't get a chance to, I don't think either of you guys were able to answer, did you see lifelong commitment modeled in your family? So when you look back, did you see that in your family? Did you see two married people handling conflicts well, or did you see the opposite?
For me, like my mom was a single mom, so there was no unit in our home, and there was, the only way you knew you dealt with any issue was to blow up from 0 to 10 right off the bat, and that's all I saw. And I didn't, talking about earlier about seeing lifelong marriage modeled, I didn't see that at all anywhere in any relationship that I had growing up. So in fact, I don't even think most they, I hear this a lot. Oh, since I was a little girl, I dreamt of my wedding day and my wedding dress and what I never even had those thoughts because I was never even taught to dream. So I didn't even know what that looked like. So in my mind, a husband, a marriage, a home, that wasn't even a thought of mine. And so, yeah, all I saw was if you got angry, you just flipped out. You just flipped out, and you expressed it in a lot of anger. That's all I saw.
How about for you, Jesse?
Yeah, for me, divorce is prevalent in my family history. My mom was divorced twice, and it's, with my aunts and uncles. There was one aunt and uncle who are still married to this day, so I've seen it modeled in their relationship. But as far as the immediate home, no, my mom was divorced. My mother and father divorced. So the avoiding conflict and the dealing with conflict, I took a little bit from both my mother and father. My father tended to avoid it, but my mom, because my mom was so, for lack of a better word, bully. So she just like kind of just was like, rah. And my dad was like, okay, I'm not doing that. And so he just avoided conflict. So I picked up a little bit best of both worlds, I guess. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so moving, I've had to learn how to deal with it a little bit better
Yeah.
than.
And communication, that's definitely one of the biggest reasons why people divorce. I know it's on the list. Um, one of the top ones is definitely communication. Like we don't know how to talk to each other. And that's certainly a struggle. And I think many times there's always one person in the relationship that is a better communicator than the other when it comes to conflict or when it comes to expressing what's in their heart or what they need. And I think that's so important. And I think as you get older, I want to say we get better at it. Would you say that's true? Like you get better at the commitment to communicate effectively to each other, or you don't have to take long, but I'm just curious what you think.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree with that statement.
Mm-hmm.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah. Yeah. So in keeping with the whole conflict, discussion that we're having here, we've said that conflict, it's been said when it handled appropriately, you can actually strengthen a relationship. Would you say the same thing about adversity and external pressure? For example, the loss of a job, parenting, financial setbacks. Have you ever experienced what it is to grow closer to one another as a result of weathering a tough storm together? What's been your experience with that? Because
Absolutely, I agree that. But I think more importantly for me, it's that when those times come, those storms, tough seasons, and all that, it tends to drive me personally, my experience, closer to God, and that is what has brought us closer together. Jari and I, to move through that together. So that's what I've found, both move closer to God during those storms, and then closer to Jari as well.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I would say 100% for sure it strengthens your marriage. But I think it's really the key is if you let it, because you can either choose to link arms and look at that battle together and how you can fight it together, or you can allow that thing, whatever that thing is, to come between you and make your spouse the enemy, which then in turn divides you. It makes you feel separated, alone. So I think the choice is really yours and how you kind of go into that.
Yeah. So question number 5, what would you say are the top most important elements of a married relationship? If you had to rank these elements, where on the list would you place sex? And can you explain your reasoning for the ranking? So what are your top and most important elements in marriage? And then tell me where sex fits in there and why.
I would, my top, I'm just going to give you top three. I didn't know if you were looking for a specific number, but my top three: commitment ultimately is the foundation of any relationship. And because I think with the commitment, you build the other key elements such as trust, communication, all those things are built on that foundation of commitment. Hey, share with me what you want. Talk to me about anything. I trust that you're not going to go nowhere if I share something that's crazy off the wall. So for me, commitment is, boom, foundation. And then I would put communication as number two. And then sex, while it's very important, would be three for me.
Awesome. So why would it be a three?
Because I think when with the commitment and the communication, once you build those two, I think that's actually a healthy foundation for a healthy sex life.
Yeah.
So that's why I put, and I think there's just seasons as couples that you go through ebbs and flows where maybe sex is really important for a season and that's getting you through the season you're in. But for me, on a more steady basis, sex would be third. Communication and all that. Communication and commitment are the foundation for me, my opinion, and what I've seen a healthy sex life.
Awesome. And how about for you, Jari?
Well, I would, I'm going to read some of what I wrote. For me, Christ has to be the foundation, for me, because, then neither one of you are fighting for the position of lordship in your marriage. And I don't know, the only way to see your spouse or to put your spouse in their place where they should be is if he's in his proper place, you know? And then, commitment. You have to be committed to the relationship no matter what, or you're always going to want to jump ship depending on what happens. And trust, because if you trust that person that you're married to, then you always know that they have your best interests at heart. And so no matter what they say to you, even if it hurts, you know it's coming from a good place. And so it was hard for me to number where sex came in, because sex is super important. But I feel like it could come either after commitment or after trust. But let me tell you why. Because I feel like if it comes after commitment, it can come after either one. Because if you're committed, then you know that sex is vital to a marriage. And you're going to do it whether you feel like it or not frequently. That's commitment. But if you trust your spouse with your heart, and you know that your husband has your best interest at heart, sex is still of equal importance, but then it goes to a whole nother level of good. Then it's just not just a commitment. I need to have sex because sex is important in marriage, but I enjoy sex with my husband, and then it's all kinds of good. That's what I have to say about that.
And I love that we can talk about sex, because I feel like, in so many circles, it's like, a lot of women can shut down when it comes to sex. And before we transition to the next question, I'm going to tell you two things that I learned, and I'm talking about years ago, from a minister's wife. And I was shocked when she said it. She said two things. It was like a women's marriage, something or other. And she's just an old classy woman. And she said, ladies, she's like, you just need to grab your man, she said, and rock his world in the bed. That was the first thing she said. And then she talked about sex being spiritual warfare, and of course she said, what would you do if Jesus would show up at the foot of your bed while you were having sex as a married couple? She said, would you cover yourself? Oh my God, he made me do it, or would you be like, thank you, like, this is amazing, this is so good. She said, depending on how you answer that, it really shows the shame associated with your previous, situations and, encounters with sex that you may have had before, a Christ-like relationship. And I thought that was so good. Like, and I just remember working through challenges, at the moment, because I think in many circles, we don't talk about sex. And if we do talk about it, you know what I mean? It's not maybe effective. And so I just really appreciate your honesty, with that. That's really good. So last question here. What do you need and expect from each other in terms of openness and depth of communication? And how do your needs and expectations differ? And I think this is such an important question, and you kind of already weaved this throughout some of the questions already, but I think there's a big issue today with men and emotional connection, but it also exists with women. It's weird, but I know women who kind of, when it comes to emotional connection, they struggle like men do. But then the man in that person's life is more open emotionally. So anyways, I'm curious to see how you're going to answer this, but what do you need and expect from each other in terms of openness and depth of communication, and how do your needs and expectations differ?
Okay, I'll go first. So honesty and frequent communication and sharing just what's going on in our lives and our relationship, whatever may be pressing at the time. And then I feel like, for me though, being a man, being a man living with 3 girls and now 3 women, I've learned to be how to communicate and share emotions. It wasn't easy for me in the beginning, but I've learned. And now, while I don't need it as much as Jari would, I do see the value in it. There's value in sharing emotions, and it's important in a relationship, any relationship, but specifically because we're talking about marriage, the marriage relationship. Because like I shared earlier, everything, builds off those 3 things that I shared, and deep communication, honesty, and trust, and all that is part of that.
Good.
And I would say, one of the things that I learned that in one of our studies over the years, we've done so many, honestly, so many studies over the years, whether we were doing great, whether we were doing not so great, and whether we were terrible, we've always been learning, trying to grow. And one of the things that I learned along the way was about, God wanting how God wants our marriage to reflect his love for his church, that he calls his bride in the Bible. And so one of the things that he wants is to be known by us, and for us to know him. And so one of the greatest needs that I find that in our marriage is, to be seen and to be known by Jesse, and for me to see and know him. And so I want my heart and my mind to be safe with him, and for us to be able to go deep in conversation and just share each other's lives with one another, the good, the bad, the ugly, the mundane, the huge, but I would say my needs are more relational in nature, just the way that I'm wired. Mm-hmm. So when I feel seen and heard by Jesse at any given time, I feel so safe, and then I just feel like we're just connecting on a whole nother level.
That's great. That's so good. So let's transition to married life. And what would you say is your heart and, your vision for married life couples? I know you currently do premarital counseling. I know you have a married life small group. I know you've been doing this for a real long time. And I think you guys are a great example of a good working marriage. Not a perfect marriage, but a marriage that, continues to edify, each other, edify Christ, put Christ first. But what would you say is your vision? Like, what's your heart for other couples that are perhaps willing to join you guys in this adventure at Life Church Allentown?
Okay.
I would say our vision for married couples would be for them to come to a place where they can feel safe, they can feel heard, and not feel alone in whatever season their marriage is in. Great. We say this all the time. Great marriages travel in packs, and so whether their marriage is at the ultimate highest of places or whether their marriage is at the lowest of places, that they would choose to invest in their marriage and find a place that they can do real life with other couples.
So good. And how about you, Jesse? Like, what's your heart, for married life?
Everything that Jari just said is, obviously, I agree with that. I would also, especially with this specific study that we're going to do next, this upcoming discipleship, You and Me Forever. I always blow the title. I always say Me and You Forever, but You and Me Forever. They talk about having that your marriage is more than just about your marriage, and that it's having a mission together, and that mission being, sharing the gospel and just being the light. And so I found that, and this kind of ties into the question before about drawing closer to each other, with conflict and all that. I think having a mission together has also, I mean, personally for Jari and I, it's drawn us closer together. And so we just love to help couples find their mission, whatever that mission may be, and help them on their way, because we know that ultimately draws them closer together as well and enhances the marriage relationship, along with all the other stuff that we shared today.
So good. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing. Thank you for, being open and honest and just sharing about your relationship with us. We really appreciate that. Maybe you were watching tonight and you're divorced, right? You've been struggling because you had a divorce. Well, we want you to know that there is life after divorce. God still has plans, and, he still has a plan for your life. And, maybe this is a season for you to get healing and for you to work on your heart and for you to be ready for perhaps that next person God's going to put into your life. Maybe you're listening tonight and your marriage is struggling. We encourage you to come out to the married small group and try something new. Get out of your comfort zone. I love what Jari said. Great marriages travel in packs. Maybe your marriage isn't great right now. Maybe it needs improvement. Well, that's everybody. I don't know any marriage that doesn't need improvement. So if that's you, step out of your comfort zone and show up. And can you guys share when it's going to start, the married small group?
Sure. It's going to be on Tuesdays, starting October 6th, from 7 to 8:30 at Life Church Allentown. Awesome. And it'll be for 6-7 weeks.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So the last thing I want to share with everybody that's watching, if you guys have been tuning in every Wednesday for a live video, well, starting next week, so starting September 30th, there will not be a video produced by us. We're actually going to invite you to join our virtual study, Free of Me. So instead of a video, you're going to find a link. You're going to have to click on that link and, put in some information like your name, your email. And then once you put in that information, it's going to send you to where we are virtually so that you can connect and watch the video virtually. We won't see each other, but you'll be able to see our names and who's there. Due to copyright issues, we just can't show the Free of Me video on Facebook. So for the next 5 weeks, there will be no live video from us. It'll be the Free of Me link that you'll have to connect to. So we look forward to hanging out with you guys starting September 30th, virtually at 6 p.m. on Facebook, or in person at 7 p.m. at the Life Church Allentown campus on Wednesday, September 30th. All right, guys. Thank you, Jesse and Jari. Any closing words before we wrap this up?
Hope to see you.
Yeah, hope to see you there.
Awesome. Well, have a good night, everybody. Thank you for watching. Take care.